What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out my new video. It is another ranking video, and this video I will be ranking the Phantasm franchise. First and foremost, I got to say that I haven't been able to put out as much content as I've wanted to, mainly due to me being under the weather. But I decided to go ahead and take advantage of me being under the weather, and I caught up on some movies that I haven't seen in a while. And I know in some of the comments on my past videos that people has been asking me to do the Scream franchise, and one of them that really stuck out to me was the Phantasm franchise. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna sit down, and the last couple of days I've watched them back to back, and I've got to say before I even start ranking the Phantasm movies that I did not grow up watching these movies. I actually only started watching them maybe 2 years ago, and it was because of my podcast, Small Town Horror with Johnny and Randy. We always review horror movies on the podcast, and we're also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can download us on iTunes. And yes, that's a quick plug. But my buddy Randy, who does the podcast with me, has always talked about the movie Phantasm. So we decided to sit down and review it, and that was the first time I'd ever seen it. Like I said, it's been a couple years ago, and it was just a franchise that I never grew up watching. Like, it never really caught my interest. And I got to say that I actually do enjoy this franchise now. But with that being said, it's not one of my top tiers as far as a movie that I always go back to. So I think my ranking will be a little different than some of the ones that I have seen. So if you're a diehard Phantasm fan, first and foremost, I'm just going to say that I apologize because I'm pretty sure that this may be a little controversial, but I'm looking at it as someone who just started watching these films. And like I said, I had fun watching each and every one of them. I did enjoy most of them. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the ranking. Coming in at number 5, in my opinion, the weakest of the entire franchise is Phantasm III, Lord of the Dead. This is the one film out of all of them that I just did not enjoy sitting through. This is my only second time watching this film. I didn't really like the characters in the movie. I feel like this was nothing but a horror slash more comedy slash action film. It just really lost the momentum that I feel the first and second one had. The character Rocky, I did not care for her. I thought she made it even more cheesy, especially her with the nunchucks. Reggie through the entire film is just trying to get laid, and that's almost his whole purpose. And they also made Reggie kind of look like a joke in this movie. And I know Reggie's a fan favorite, but I just didn't like the usage. Also, the balls or the spears, whatever you want to call them, this thing right here. This was the only film where they actually have an eyeball, and I kind of like that for a little bit, but then it was like to me, it made it more goofy. I just feel like they went an entire different direction than what the first two was. And to me, this is the weakest one. The three villains in the small town, after they capture Reggie and they throw him in the back of the car, and then they go into the house where the kid has got all the traps set up. I feel like that was nothing but a rated R Home Alone scene. Just to me, it made no sense. I didn't get the three villains. They really seemed like almost like the villains on Home Alone Part 3 or 4. I can't remember, but the two guys and the girl. The acting. Now, I'll go on record. The acting in all of these films, none of them are standouts. A lot of the acting is cheesy, even from Reggie. But I think this is the worst one. Like I said, this will be the one that if I ever go through and watch them all again, more than likely I'll end up skipping this one. I just didn't feel like this one was even a horror film. Even with the scene where the tall man is coming through the bars as they're out in the desert or wherever they're at, and they cut his hands off. You know, Reggie puts his hands on the two bars and it cuts the tall man's hands off. Well, then all of a sudden now his hand's crawling around making noise, and it goes up Reggie's pants. it was just too goofy. It almost had an Evil Dead vibe to it. And I love the Evil Dead franchise, but you can't go from what the first two Phantasms was to this, in my opinion. I just didn't care for it. And then they brought back the character from the original, Jody. They brought back that actor, and I have to say, for him being a dead guy, he aged a lot. As soon as I seen it, I was like, "Come on, you guys couldn't give him like a '70s wig or something, make him look even like he did in the first one." But yeah, he had changed so much. Maybe they didn't have the money to be able to do something with it. I don't know, but I didn't see any sense of bringing him back if they weren't at least going to make him look like he did in the first one. And then also one of the scenes that really gets me is Reggie and Rocky. They're having a sex scene, which is ridiculous. And the whole time, Jody sitting there talking to Reggie. And like I said, it was just this movie never made me feel like I was watching a scary movie or horror movie, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It just, uh, it seemed like they were trying to make an action movie, in my opinion, a funny action movie. And then the finale is hard to watch. The final scene of the entire movie, you're expecting this big, huge fight, and you got Rocky with her nunchucks, and the little kids running around with his gun. Um, I don't know. To me, it just didn't live up to any of the other ones. I'll say that. So that's why Phantasm 3 is coming in at number 5, dead last. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Phantasm Ravager. Um, I know this movie is not the best. I do like it better than the third one, of course. That's why I'm ranking it higher. I had fun with this movie. Does this movie have flaws? Yes. I think I would have maybe been more disappointed if I had waited that many years. I can't remember how many years they said. Maybe it was 16 or 18 years from Part 4 Oblivion come out. And of course, you can see that Reggie is so much older, Jody's so much older, Mike, the tall man, is so much older, Angus. Other than the stuff like that, waiting so long, maybe I would have been disappointed. But like I said, just starting to watch these movies back to back, I did have fun with this one because um, I felt like that the acting was 10 times better in this one. I'm not a big fan of Mike's acting. I don't know the real guy's name, but I thought he did a pretty good job in this film. Um, I think that they could have, if they would have had the budget, I really think they could have made this one to be one of the best ones. Because I did like the path they were going as far as the tall man's has taken over Earth, and all the big spears or balls, whatever you want to call them, are up in the sky and stuff. I did like that plot, like how it was kind of like a doomsday thing. But what hurt this film was I guess they didn't have the budget, and it looked like a movie that you would watch off of the Sci-Fi Channel. And if the CGI or practical effects isn't good, it'll really just take you out of the movie. One scene I really did like that stuck out to me is now Reggie is in an old folks home. It kind of goes back and forth between you don't know what's reality or what's going on. You don't know what's dreaming it. Are we in Reggie's mind? Are we in the real world? But I do like where Reggie's in bed and he looks over and there's the tall man sitting next to him or laying next to him. And they're just having a conversation and you don't know if the tall man is really the tall man or if it's I can't remember his name, his real his not Angus, but the tall man's character name. I think it's Jeremiah or Jedediah. I can't remember. But then he looks over at Reggie and he says something like, "Well, I hate to tell you this. I'm just paraphrasing, but this is where they bring you to die." And as soon as he says it, you see his facial expressions just drop into the tall man character. I really like that. I know that he was sick during this movie, and he did get to see the final cut of the movie before he passed away. But I still thought that he was still creepy in this. Angus knows how to play that tall man role, and I've heard people say that tall man's not creepy. I think he's very creepy. I do like that character, but it was just I don't know. It was just cool to see them in a different environment, and I did like how it go back and forth where you were like, well, is he in the old folks' home or is he out fighting these demons or what's going on? But the only thing is, if I was a true Phantasm fan, like if I grew up watching it, I would probably be disappointed with this one. I know this ranked dead last on a lot of people's ranking because the ending is so confusing. And I don't know if I read this right, but the way that I took it is that there were other dimensions. And when Reggie is dying at the end with Jody and Mike by his side, that in that universe or that dimension, Reggie was really dying. But then when he's in the back of the car and Mike and Jody's talking about they got to be smarter and they're going to fight harder, you know, that's one universe. So I don't know. It really left you with unanswered questions, man. Like, you don't know what happened to the tall man. You don't know if Earth ever, and you don't know if Earth ever recovered, and they're not going to make another one. I just felt like they didn't give a satisfied ending. Um, like I said, overall, I can still watch the film. I do enjoy the film. They even got a guy in there that I really like, Daniel Roebuck. He plays a part in it, and I will say that there's a lot of gruesome kill scenes in this, and when they use practical effects, it looks good. It was just the CGI is what really toned it down, and there was a lot of times you could really tell they were in front of a green screen. But anyway, Phantasm Ravager, I do feel like it's not as bad as everybody made it sound to be. Because before I ever watched it, I heard so many people dogging the movie. But now it's not one of my favorites, but I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Leave your comments and let me know your ranking and what you feel about the film. Okay, coming in at number 3 is the original Phantasm. I can already hear the keyboards typing. I know it's probably blasphemy for me to even put that at number 3, but just hear me out. Like I've said before, I did not grow up on these films. And over the years, I go to horror conventions all the time, and I've always seen people wearing the Phantasm t-shirts and stuff. And I always knew about Phantasm, but I didn't really know what it was. And I can sit down and enjoy the first Phantasm, but to me, the acting is just terrible. Jody, I don't care for his character. Mike, when he was little, I just feel like it was just way too cheesy. Especially the part where he's working under the car, Mike is, and the car ends up like falling, and it's like literally laying on his head, and he's like, I can't get out. Like, his head's stuck, and then he sees the feet walking, and he grabs that hammer and he hits Jody's foot, and it's such a late reaction, and the sound that Jody makes. Then you got the little creep Mike, who's always stalking his older brother, and the one scene that just made me be like, really, is where Jody is getting it on with this girl in the graveyard. Mike sees the half creatures that the tall man, takes and makes into small people. He sees it, takes off running, is screaming his head off the entire time. He runs past Jody and this girl getting it on, still screaming, and then Jody's like, huh? What was that? I don't know. I think what it was is the film was too hyped for me when I went in it, because like I said, I had heard so much about the film. Yeah, really, like I said, I can watch it. I'll still pop it in and watch this film. It's just, to me, it wasn't really living up to expectations. I'll put it that way. It is a creepy film. The tall man is creepy. There's certain shots that I really enjoy, like when Mike sees the tall man walking down the road, and you see Reggie, and Reggie opens the cooler because Reggie's an ice cream guy, and all of a sudden the tall man feels the cold, which we learn in later movies. He doesn't like the cold, and he just slowly turns and looks. That's a creepy shot. And then of course the shot where Mike's asleep, and then when he wakes up, he's in the graveyard, and he's standing over him, the tall man standing over his bed. A lot of phenomenal shots. I do like the shots, and I love the tall man where he's always like, boy. I love that. Like I said, the tall man is a creepy character. It's just that this film, to me, had too much cheesy acting in it. Just the acting wasn't that good. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why it's coming in at number three. I don't want to sit here and dog this movie because, like I said, I do like the movie. But if I'm going to be serious with you, it didn't live up to the expectations that I really thought Phantasm was going to. All right, now we're coming in to the final two. And coming in at number two is Phantasm II. I know this is a lot of people's favorite film. And when I first watched all of these, I enjoyed this one the best. I really thought this was going to rank number one. I really liked Phantasm 2. Still do. I enjoyed it. The camera shots are a lot better in this film. Uh, I also like the guy that they replaced the original Mike with. I liked him. Actually, I did like him better in this film. I think his acting's better. The tall man is very creepy in this one. I really think that in part two and part four, we get the creepiest version of the tall man. The tall man is not going to let anybody stop him. Like I said, in this film, I feel like he's just out to kill. You know, he's on a mission. The practical effects are amazing in this movie, especially where Jody and Reggie find Liz and her back's moving, and when they take the sheet off of her back, the creature comes up from Liz's back. Man, I thought that was a creepy shot. I thought it was good. Once again, Phantasm 2, to me, surpassed the first Phantasm, and they even kept it creepy. They did throw a little bit of action in there, as far as, like, you know, with the way Reggie gets his 4-barrel shotgun, and you know he's got Mike's got the flamethrower, but it still fit in with the movie. Another thing that really stuck out to me is the production design on this film. Man, when they're in the, I guess you could call it, the crypt, like where they keep all the coffins and stuff, they got all the candles lit. I think it's beautifully shot. If that's a word, beautifully. I think it's shot great. I like the lighting in this movie. Um, I love where the tall man is chasing after the I guess he's the priest, and he's like, you think when you die you go to heaven? No, you come to me. That's what I'm saying. His acting in this and the way he delivered his lines, to me, this is probably the best, one of the best tall man in this movie. The ending, I love the ending. I love the finale where Mike and Reggie and Liz are all fighting against the tall man, and it's just total chaos. You know, they go into the other realm, and Reggie's trying to save Mike, and he's pulling him back as this other creature's coming toward Reggie's face. And they put, I can't remember what they put into the stuff they inject into the bodies, but I think it was like acid. I believe it was acid. And Liz comes up and stabs the tall man right in the back, and then Reggie turns the vial on, and that acid just starts eating away at the tall man, melting his flesh. Um, Once again, practical effects. I thought that was a great way to kill the tall man. I loved it. Yeah, just the ending was wonderful. Now, the one thing I'm going to stick out, that reason this ranked number two mainly for me, was the girl that played Liz. Her acting was terrible. I didn't like her in any of the scenes. She had no emotions whatsoever. People would die right in front of her. She's just like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. I just feel like her acting was atrocious. I mean, it just was not there for me. But the ending, I think this has the best ending. I love when they're riding off in the hearse and Reggie's up front with the girl that he likes. And when he realizes that she's possessed, you know, because the tall man can uh, shapeshift, you know, they throw Reggie out. Reggie's grabbing hold of the window, and Mike looks at Liz and he grabs her and he's like, "It's just a dream. Remember, it's just a dream." And all of a sudden, the tall man just turns around and he goes, "No, it's not," and then goes off. I love that. I think that is such a great ending. But yeah, that's why this one is coming in at number two. Okay, and of course that only leaves one, and that's my number one pick, is Phantasm IV Oblivion. Uh, After sitting down and watching these back to back, I say that I enjoyed this one a lot more than I did the first time I watched it. I always kind of went back and forth between this one and part two, but overall, this time I watched it, I feel like I really appreciated the story more. This film has more of Mike in it than Reggie, which I do like Reggie. They did bring back the original guy that played Mike. Excuse me, they brought him back in the third one, but um, I feel like his acting's a little better in this one. I think the shots are phenomenal in this movie, especially the desert scenes when it shows the tall man way back in the background. There's a spot where Mike's fixing to hang himself because we seen in the third one where the tall man planted one of those balls inside of his head and he was just going to off himself, hang himself in the tree. I think that's shot beautifully. Um, I love the way when it opens up how Reggie's telling the backstory to all of the other films. And the main thing that makes me appreciate this film is how much they used all the extra scenes they had from the first Phantasm movie. Apparently, the first Phantasm movie had so much scenes in it that it was going to be like almost a 2.5 hour movie, and they got to use all the deleted scenes. But what made it stick out to me in this one is how they used those deleted scenes to fit this movie and fit the timeline and the backstory. And I really appreciated what they did with it. One of the scenes that really sticks out to me is the fight scene with the dead officer, state trooper, whatever you want to call him, when he pulls over Reggie. I think the makeup looked wonderful on the officer, and especially when Reggie blows up the car and he's in it. When the officer comes out and he's walking, it almost looks like a Friday the 13th Part 7 where Jason's walking toward it and he's going back and forth in flames. Awesome. Thought that their production must have been a lot better in this one. Um, I just feel like this one got brought back to straight up horror. It's not horror comedy because there's not a lot of comedy in this one. Once again, the tall man is at his scariest. I said it before. I think he's the most evil in this one and part two. Really enjoy the tall man in this. Again, Jody's back in this one, and of course, he looks even older. Don't care for that part. I still say they should have gave him a wig, done something, make him look a little younger, or don't even have him in the movie. Because, like I said, that kind of takes away that hey, Jody's supposed to be a dead guy, but he's aged, terribly. And the guy's a good actor, but still, it was like it just kind of throws me off because then they do the flashbacks and he's supposed to look like he did in the flashbacks, but he doesn't. He just looks like a middle-aged guy who's been dead for 10 years or however many years the car wreck had happened. And like I said, Reggie is my favorite character of the films, but I did like how this one was more about Mike. For some reason, Reggie was kind of on the back line on this one, but they did enough with him that I appreciated what they did with Reggie, but I did like that we got more of a storyline and a journey from Mike. I really appreciated that. Um, I love that we finally get a backstory to the tall man and being able to see Angus play the tall man, but not the evil tall man. Like I said, I can't remember his name. It was either Jeremiah or something like that. But seeing what his origins were and how he was a nice man and stuff, it really shows how good of an actor Angus was. Um, that really shocked me. I forgot about the backstory to the tall man, but yeah, I really enjoyed that whole setting and how he went in normal and then he came back out as the demented tall man. But overall, this is one of the films that I enjoy watching out of the franchise. Like I said, that's why it's coming in at number one. I just enjoyed this one more than any of the other ones. So, with that being said, that is my ranking of the entire Phantasm franchise. And like I always say, if you can't get enough horror movies, if you can't get enough of podcasts, be sure to check out my podcast, Small Town Horror with Johnny and Randy. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts from. Uh, and also, I am going to be ranking very soon the Child's Play franchise, and I will be doing the Scream. I've seen a lot of people asking for the Scream franchise. But don't forget, also in May, I will be doing the 30th anniversary of The Crow, the original Crow with Brandon Lee, one of the best films ever made, in my opinion. But as always, I just want to say that I appreciate each and every one of you who's subscribed and hit that like button. I appreciate everyone who comments and lets me know how they feel about my ranking. You guys and gals tell me your ranking. And just a quick message, just remember that we're not all going to see things the same way. We're not all going to agree. But hey, that's what we're here for, is just to discuss horror films or any type of films and just have a good time with it. And as always, just God bless each and every one of you guys and gals. And until next time, I'll see you later.
We're gonna wake up. It's a dream.
It's only a dream.
No, it's not.